Hello everyone, welcome back to the Sly Cooper Wiki. My name is Shrev, your usual host, and today we're looking at Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. Now you might be wondering, Shrev, we've already seen the Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. And you would be right, except today we are actually looking at a specific variant, the French-Canadian variant. So, we've looked at French-Canadian versions of Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves, as well as the Sly Collection in past videos, but today I want to focus on the first installment of the Sly Cooper series, Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, because the greatest hits versions of this particular game in the Canadian region are a bit more interesting, in my opinion, than the other games that we've covered. So, starting off right off the bat, you'll notice that these are noticeably different than the North American, specifically United States version of the greatest hits cover. So just to give you some perspective, this is the greatest hits cover of the United States variant of Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus, whereas the Canadian versions are using the older cover for its greatest hits variant. Now you may recall in our Sly 3 video, I sort of theorized how these covers might have came to be, where they took the initial release cover and just put a red greatest hits banner on it and sort of translated whatever needs to be translated, and that's what I'm guessing happened here as well, because similar to the Sly 3 variant, these covers that you see here are actually just covers. They're actually not the internal sleeve of the game. The internal sleeve of the Canadian versions is the exact same as the internal sleeve of the United States variant. It's just that this external packaging here is for those French speakers, as it is mandated in some regions in Canada.
Hey guys, just a quick clarification. The copy that you see on the right included only that sleeve and no other sleeves. That is to say that the cover that you're used to seeing on the United States greatest hits versions, that sleeve is not included on the copy on the right. I'm not quite sure why this is. It may be because I did buy that particular copy used, so I can't completely confirm that it is the only copy that you receive, but I do want to make that clarification that in this particular instance, the one copy on the right comes with only that one sleeve. It does not come with any other sleeves.
What is interesting with these particular copies, though, is the fact that they are different. Now, at first glance, these specific covers may seem identical, but there are a few differences when you really get looking into them. First and foremost, the font and as well as the statement of the greatest hits in French is different. So the font on the left is a bit more bolder, whereas the font on the right is a bit lighter, and it also omits the article in French, les. So instead of les grands succès, it is grands succès. A minor difference, but a difference nonetheless. Another difference in these particular sleeves is noted in the ESRB rating. So on the right, we see that the ESRB rating is just in English, everyone, E for everyone. However, on the left, it is rated E for everyone and enfant et adulte. That is to say, it does include the French translation for that rating. Moving to the spine, we see probably one of the most drastic differences we've seen thus far, and that is the actual spine font. One we saw on the right, which is now on the top, that one looks more of a, official sort of Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus release. It's got its red PlayStation 2 banner with the black PlayStation square, as well as the full title in how we've seen it before in the United States version, as well as the SCUS number, which is unchanged from its United States variant, and the sort of NTSC UC notation. On the bottom, with that sleeve that was on the left, we notice some very interesting differences, and this is similar to the differences we saw in that one Sly 3 cover. So we have a white PlayStation square instead of a black one. We have a completely different spine design, which is very similar to actually the front cover. So this is the front cover for reference here. That is pretty much the word mark that is used on the spine, which is very interesting. There's no red bottom banner here, and there's no SCUS identifier. Again, probably not too important for selling it in a specific region, but it is an interesting difference, especially considering that these were both sold in Canada. I'm not quite sure why these differences would be here, but it is interesting to see them nonetheless. The back cover is where things get a little interesting, though there's not too many differences to talk about. The back covers of these two particular French-Canadian covers are similar in differences as their front covers were. So they look pretty similar, and they definitely are, though there are a few minor differences that I do want to point out. So the one on the left, which is the one that came with a separate sleeve on top, this is the one that sort of seems to be a reprinted copy, slightly reprinted, as opposed to sort of having the existing black label cover with French translations added on. And I say that because the text placement of the English text is shifted around quite a bit. Now the English text on the one on the right is shifted around as well to accommodate for the French translation, but on the cover on the left it seems to be completely reprinted. The font is a little bit different. The sort of contrast of this cover is increased a little bit, and generally it just seems to be a little more updated. We can also see that from the ESRB graphic that we see here. This ESRB graphic is more what you'd see in modern games, games that you were to buy today, whereas the ESRB layout on the cover on the right is more what you would see sort of pre-2002, 2003. This is sort of how that ESRB would be laid out, which leads me to believe that this particular cover on the left was printed later in the decade, as opposed to the one on the right, which seems to have been printed right around the release date of the original Greatest Hits copy. We can observe a few more differences by taking a look at the original Black Label copy, which I have right here. So this is the original English-only Black Label release. And we can notice that if we compare the French-Canadian copy on the right with that Black Label cover, we see that this copy, the French-Canadian copy, is more in line with my theory from the Sly 3 video, where they took the existing Black Label copy and then moved around the text as little as possible to accommodate for its respective French translations. And we can see that by seeing the sort of "there's a new thief in town" with a French translation directly next to it in a sort of unpleasant manner, I would say. There definitely could have been a bit more spacing done to accommodate for that translation, especially because when we move over to the French-Canadian cover on the left, we do see that spacing, and we also see a difference in that font of that statement, "there's a new thief in town." It does convey the same information, though it does convey it slightly differently. Additionally, the French text itself has a few minor differences. The text itself is the same. There's really nothing to say about it, except for the fact that there is an omission of an exclamation point on the cover on the right. So here it says "Se sauver par les trois, se soustraire au garde, l'échapper belle." On the left, that statement is followed by an exclamation mark, whereas on the right, it does not have any punctuation whatsoever. Again, nothing groundbreaking, but it does have that difference nonetheless. Additionally, these particular Greatest Hits covers don't feature the statements from reviews and the Game Character of the Year award that the English-only Greatest Hits copy features on the back of its cover. So either way, at the end of the day, both of these French-Canadian copies are just modified versions of the existing English-only Black Label variant. Both manuals in these versions are identical, so I'll only look at one of them just to save us some opening time. You'll notice that we get two manuals, similar to our Sly 3 French-Canadian version. We'll get an English version, which you'll find in your normal United States copy of Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. It's in fully English, and it's the manual that you've come to know and love. And you'll also get a French manual. So this actually confused me for a little bit, because I was really concerned as to what this was in the pictures when I was looking to buy this. But it is actually a manual. It is identical to the Black Label cover with the ESRB rating and everything, but the back has this exact resemblance basically to the French-Canadian back cover, which we looked at earlier. It's got the same screenshots, same descriptions. There's some minor differences in the placement of the PlayStation URL, as well as sort of the ESRB layout, but it's basically identical to the back cover of the French-Canadian version. The manual itself is, as you might guess, a direct French translation of the English manual. The page layout's the same, the descriptions are the same as far as I could read them. So, I mean, it's a manual. You'll get all your info that you need it, whether you want it in English or French. It's there for you. So nothing too much with the manual, but it's certainly there nonetheless, and it might be something to look out for if you are intent on collecting these Sly games. And I didn't include this earlier because it was a bit of an afterthought, but the disc is identical to the United States variant in terms of build and sort of design. It's just your normal English greatest hits disc. Nothing too exciting, but, you know, it's there, and, you know, you shouldn't see really any differences if you go out and get at least the greatest hits French-Canadian version of Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus. And with all that said, that brings us to the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that like button. If you want us to unbox more stuff, let us know what you'd like us to unbox next in the comments down below. And let me know what your guys' thoughts were on this sort of French-Canadian release. This is honestly more bizarre to me than the other regions, the PAL regions, the Asian regions. These French-Canadian versions are pretty interesting to me because of how much they differ from their United States counterpart, which is the country right below them. So it's always an interesting adventure trying to decipher what exactly went through the sort of making and release of these copies, but I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and this has been your host, Shrev of the Sly Cooper Wiki, your #1 resource for anything and everything Sly Cooper. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.